Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown. I just attended another meeting where there was a conversation about family caregivers who don't self identify. And I have been asking everyone to stop having this conversation for 20 years. And so I'm getting to the place where I'm begging you to stop having this conversation about family caregivers don't self identify because we are not having the right conversation. Family caregivers, individuals who care for a family member, individuals who worry about a family member, are showing up every day, either talking about their experience or showing that they're in that experience. They are in the grocery store helping their caree, they're in the doctor's office, they're calling, they're talking about it. When we talk about family caregivers who don't self identify, we are missing the point, which is when a family caregiver talks about their experience, when they show up in a caregiving experience, how are we responding to them? What support and help are we offering them? That's the conversation. When someone talks about it, when someone shows us, we need to be ready with support and resources and help. That's the conversation. The reason that I'm so passionate about this today is because an article I read on Sunday talks about how the system fails when an individual shows up as a family caregiver and the system does not respond with support and help. So it's a story about an adult son who was helping his mom, and his mom was really in a crisis. And he went to his emergency room hospital at 3 a.m. because he knew the hospital was not going to be busy or crowded at that time. He went there and he asked for help. And they gave him the number of a crisis hotline. He called the crisis hotline and they said, "We can't help you with that." And they referred him to someone else. And he still stayed with it. He still stayed along this referral path. He had an assessment at home of his mom through an organization. Basically, a case manager went to their house and assessed his mom and said to him, "I think she has early onset of Alzheimer's disease. Why don't you bring her in so we could do a full assessment on her?" Well, his mom was not on board with that, not gonna do that. What if that case manager said to him, "Walk me out to the car. I want to just catch up with you about a few things." And on that way, on that walk, said to him, "You are your mom's family caregiver. And that's a hard job. And I'd love to tell you it's going to get easier, but the reality is the disease process is going to continue and it's probably going to get harder. Let's schedule an appointment for you and I to get together to talk out what can help you." Imagine if that conversation would have happened. Because that conversation didn't happen, and I'm not saying that's the total reason for what ultimately happened, but his mom died at home in just absolute distress. She was covered in bed sores. She had fallen off the bed and was laying on the floor and died there. And then he was arrested for neglect and went to jail. That's why we have to stop the conversation about whether or not a family caregiver self identifies. It does not matter what language they use. We are listening for the wrong language. We are expecting someone to show up in the system and say, "I'm a family caregiver." That's not going to happen. We need to listen for how they describe their days. We need to listen for how they describe their challenges. And then we have to be ready with responses that lead them to support and resources and help. That's the difference we can make. They are telling us and showing us all the time that they care for a family member. The conversation has to be okay. When they show us and tell us, how do we respond? And then if you're really worried about those who don't show and tell, the best way you can help them is by helping the ones who do, because the other ones are going to follow along. They're going to take a cue from that neighbor who actually now has help. And they're going to say to their neighbor, "How did you get help?" And then the neighbor's going to help them. And they're going to say, "This is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. This is who you need to call." Again, The conversation is about when a family caregiver tells us about their day that includes caregiving responsibilities, that includes worrying about a family member. When they show up in the system as the person who knows the most about a family member, we have to be ready to respond with resources and support and help. It's our responsibility. That's the conversation to have. How do we help when someone talks about their days and their worries? How do we help when someone shows up clearly in a caregiving responsibility? Okay, thanks so much for watching.